This is the story of MV Derbyshire, the UK's largest ever shipwreck, and how its sinking was covered up for almost 20 years. On September 9, 1980, the British bulk carrier MV Derbyshire left Japan on its way to the UK with a cargo of over 60,000 tons of iron ore. Little did the crew know that just 4 days later, they would become the victims of one of the worst typhoons in recorded history. Typhoon Nina slammed into the ship as it sailed through the Pacific Ocean. Winds of over 185 miles per hour, which is 300 kilometers per hour, tore across the deck, sending 25-foot waves crashing against the hull. With the ship in grave danger of sinking, the captain sent out a distress signal. But before any help could arrive, the ship cracked in half and sank beneath the waves. All 44 crew were lost. In the aftermath, there was no immediate investigation into what caused such a large and modern ship to suddenly snap in half. The ship was owned by Blue Star Line, who refused to comment on the disaster, and the families of the crew claimed that they, quote, died believing that their loved ones would be rescued. The lack of answers led the families to believe that the ship had simply hit a snag, and that their loved ones had died heroically trying to save the ship. It wasn't until 18 years later that the truth finally came out. In 1998, the families, now with the help of a journalist and a private investigator, began digging through documents relating to the ship's sinking. They eventually discovered that not only had the ship not hit a snag, but it had been scheduled for an urgent safety inspection just days after it sank. This led them to suspect that the ship had actually sunk due to rust. With this new evidence, the family took their fight to the media. Their campaign forced the government to launch an investigation into the sinking. But even then, the authorities seemed reluctant to find the wreck. It was only after the BBC Panorama program aired a documentary about the sinking that the government agreed to fund a search. The wreck was eventually located in December of 1998. But it was far from where the ship was reported to have sunk. The ship had been sailing along the northern coast of the Philippines when it went down. But after scouring the area for weeks, the search team came up empty-handed. They expanded the search to a much larger area and eventually located the ship 250 miles away on the southern coast of Japan. And to everyone's surprise, the ship was found upright and completely intact at a depth of 4 kilometers, which is 13,000 feet. To put that into perspective, if you were to take the Leaning Tower of Pisa and drop it from the top of Mount Everest, it would still be 3,000 feet or 900 meters shorter than the depth at which the ship was found. It seems likely that after the ship first cracked, it remained afloat long enough for the crew to abandon ship. One of the investigators explained that once the ship had broken in two, it likely, quote, floated for some time on the surface and then began to sink very slowly. He also explained why the ship had been found so far from where it was originally reported missing. Once the ship began to sink, the strong currents in the area would have easily pushed it out to sea. While the discovery of the wreck finally gave the family some closure, it did little to assuage their anger over how the investigation was handled. One of the crew members' relatives said, "How many families have to die before lessons are learned? We don't want another disaster like this to happen again." Speaking of disasters, did you know that the Titanic wasn't the only unsinkable ship to ever exist? Watch this video to learn about the even more bizarre story of the Titan, and if you'd like to support us, consider becoming a member. It really helps to keep our content free for everyone forever.